Good afternoon. I am Professor Ramanandan HS, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Maharaja Institute of Technology, Mysore. Today we will have a discussion on the subject mechatronics with a subject code of 17ME 754. The topics of today's discussion are, we have seen in the previous class about mechanical systems. So, where we have seen different types of actuators. Other than motors, we have seen some mechanisms. Basically, being mechanical engineers, we rely more on transmitting motion, energy and torque. So, for that purpose, how do you transfer the force, energy, motion or torque? Basically, motion. So, we have seen a few mechanisms or elements like cams. We have seen rack and pinion arrangement. So, few types of arrangements we have seen in the last class. So, this session will be continuation of the same topic, mechanical actuation systems, basically mechanisms. So, just go through few, we will just have a glimpse of it. Gear and gear trains. Then comes types of gears and gear trains, followed by chain and belt drives and its types. Finally, conclusion of the mechanical actuation system by what are the parameters on which we or aspects on which a motor selection totally relies on. So, first we will touch the topic gears and gear trains. So, already we are familiar what are the gears. So, gears are now, before that we need to understand what is the need of gear. So, usually we are aware of the automobiles where reciprocating motion of the engine is converted to rotary motion of the automobile wheels, so to the road wheels. So, usually the torque and the power output from the engine, they are unaltered, they cannot be changed, they remain constant. So, since the power is continuously constant, which is coming from the engine shaft or the crankshaft, torque is also constant of the piston. Usually the torque is also fixed there. So, we should play with the speed there, because these are the three parameters which comes into picture in any motion conversion, objects like motors or engines. So, power, torque and speed, because you are already familiar, because you have been exposed to subjects like automobile engineering where the system demands, the entire automobile, it demands different torque, or because there is uphill and there is downhill, the load differs on an engine and engine output is always constant. So, I should transmit it to the road wheels at a different speed altogether or varied torque. So, how can I do that? So, since power and torque is constant, so I should play with something parameter like speed. So, how can I change the speed now? Because I cannot play with engine and torque, engine power and engine torque. So, that speed element helps me in achieving my objective, in balancing what I am getting from input from the engine to the output to the road wheels. Similarly, in case of motors also, at different cases, maybe in continuous operating condition or maybe in intermittent stopping condition or resuming condition. So, take an example of your elevator. An elevator should go against gravity, it should stop at a particular point, instantaneous stopping. If ever there is overload, there should be overload protection. So many cases are there. So, a motor which is usually pumping the hydraulic fluid there, so it should be controlled with the help of gears, because it should have a provision of changing the speed. So, that change in speed is obtained by using gear mechanisms, usually how we use the gearbox in an engine. Similarly, gears help me in assisting the change of speed. So, an engineer should have, mechanical engineer should have a knowledge of what is the requirement of change of speed and how can I change the speed in various alignment of the shafts, because the shafts in the automobile you have seen, propeller shaft will be inclined and the rear axle shaft will be perpendicular more or less to the propeller shaft, and even the wheels, road wheels will be mutually perpendicular to the axle. So many conversion of change of speed or torque should take place there. So how do we do that? Obviously by using different types of gears, because types of gears comes into picture because the alignment of shaft varies. There are parallel shafts, like counter shaft and a power shaft, and you have the inclined shafts. Then there are so many cases, intersecting type of shafts. So there different types of gears comes into picture. So altogether an engineer should have a knowledge of types of gears so that he can play with this parameter called as change of speed. We will see now we have a platform of why do we need to change the speed, what is the necessity of gears, and why do you need so many types of gears? If at all there is something, gear is not enough, there should be gears because of all these. There are varied type of shafts, different type of transmissions. I want different variety of speed to be low, medium and high, that should be transmitted according to the load and road also conditions. We will see them one by one. So gears, obviously the definition we are all familiar with. So transfer, it helps in transferring and transforming rotational motion. It helps in transferring. Directly you can transfer the motion to the, from engine torque, from engine speed to the road speed, top speed vehicle, that is what we call. If at all top speed is not required, depending upon the uphill and downhill traveling of the vehicle, I have to vary the speed now. During uphill, the torque should be more, speed should be lowered. During downhill, obviously because of the gravitation, speed is more, torque needs to be lowered. So that is where smaller gear or larger gears comes into picture. So usually you can see the, that is why I have highlighted here, speed is the important criteria whenever we discuss about gears. Types of gears, you can see first one. So this is a shaft, and these two are nothing but the gears which are intermeshing with each other. Parallel shaft is the condition here. So this type of arrangement is called as parallel shaft gears, usually spur gears, which are where the teeth is cut parallel to the axis of the shaft. That is what we use in the first case. So for transmission of drive, if we take this as a driver and this is a driven shaft, shaft and counter shaft. So motion is transmitted from this shaft to the another shaft, which is parallelly aligned to the shaft with the help of the gears or the wheels which are connected to each other with the help of teeths, gear teeths. They intermesh with each other and transmit the speed based on gear ratio. I will tell you what the gear ratio is. First you should understand how we transfer or transmit from one shaft to another shaft with the help of gear. Reduction of speed, increase of speed, or same speed. Whatever the engine is generating the power, same speed it can also be transferred to the output shaft. So here this is the first case of parallel shaft. Second case you can see here. So the gear shaft is intersecting at one point. Usually the shaft are not aligned, non-aligned shaft, that is what we call. In such a cases, your spur gear cannot be adopted. There is one more form of gear called as bevel gear. So how do you identify the gears? They are identified based on the gear teeth profile. So in bevel gears, they are not, teeth are not parallel to each other, they will be at a certain angle. So even the meshing of gears takes place the way it is shown in the pictorial representation. Usually 90 degrees or less than 90 degrees you can get bevel gears, you can use it and transmit the motion. Say for example we use them in from transmission of the axle to wheels. So there we use bevel gears. So in case of propeller shaft to the rear axle. There also we use worm gear or bevel gears. That is what we usually prefer, because they have the axis of the shaft intersecting at a certain point, so that you can use, usually it is for rear wheels, where we adopt rear wheel driven vehicle at the axle and the rear wheel. So where the power is getting transmitted from the axle to the wheel shaft, okay, hub of the wheel. So there you can observe adoption of bevel gears. Okay. So next, third one is obviously spur gear. I have already spoken on this, where the gear teeth profile is parallel to the shaft axis. Helical gears, as the name itself indicate, word by word you can understand. Helical. So helix, you are already familiar, the shape of helix is inclined. That means to say it is inclined to a certain angle, where the profile of the teeth is helical in shape. Such gears are called as helical gears. Okay. So where you have to overcome certain speed limits, we use something called as double teeth cut helical gears. A very special case under helical gears, we use them to overcome the reduction of speed. So where I don't want to lose the speed because of friction, I use something called as double helical gears, okay, as an engineer. So this is about basic knowledge of types of gears. Okay. Let us understand what do you mean by gear ratio now. So we are familiar with the gears. Okay, they are nothing but they help us in changing the speed, because power and torque are constant. So I can play with the speed so that I can give the output. Okay, I can change the output torque and output speed with the help of gear. Okay. So next comes, okay, how do you plan to arrange the gears so that I reduce the speed whenever there is greater torque. I usually increase the speed with a lower torque. So how do you decide that? How do you decide the diameter of the gear wheel? How do you decide the number of teeth to be cut on the gear wheel? So on what basis? So this is a major question which comes in mind for a newcomer who is getting introduced to gears. So how things are decided? So for that there is a parameter called as gear ratio, because to decide on this. So how to select a gear or how to cut, what number of teeth should be there on the gear circumference or profile. So you can understand it some way like this. Take an example of two intermeshed gears A and B. They are meshing with each other. A is of smaller diameter and B is of larger diameter. Okay. So take an example, A is having around 40 teeth. I will take an example. So this is having a 40 teeth cut on its profile, and gear B is having 80 number of teeth cut on its profile. Okay. Gear B has 80 teeth and gear A has 40 teeth. So what is a gear ratio then? There is something called as angular velocity. Since it is a rotational motion, the speed of the vehicle or the mechanism is measured in terms of angular velocity omega. So omega A, input speed by output speed, or input velocity by output velocity, that ratio is called as gear ratio. So how do you express it in terms of magnitude or number? Okay. So there comes the relation between angular velocity and number of teeth. So angular velocity of A, you can see here, it is meshing with gear B. You can see that the observation, by mere observation, the gear A is smaller than gear B. That is what I have mentioned. Okay. So gear A approximately, since it is having 40 teeth, if gear B makes one complete revolution, gear A will be making 2 revolutions. So gear A has to rotate twice when compared to gear B, because gear B is of larger diameter, exactly twice that of diameter of gear A. So that means to say omega A is equal to number of teeth on gear B by number of teeth on gear A. So angular velocities are inversely proportional to the number of teeth. Okay. So omega A is equal to 1 by number of teeth on omega on A, gear wheel A. Omega B is equal to 1 by number of teeth on gear B. So from that expression is derived here. So omega A by omega B, angular velocity A by B ratio will be number of teeth on B by number of teeth on A. So 80 by 40, obviously gear ratio between these two gears, what I have expressed here is 2. That means to say gear A has to rotate twice so that it reaches the speed of gear B. Okay. Gear B will make one complete revolution so that your gear A rotates 2 revolutions. So that means to say half of the speed, okay, half of the speed is needed to increase the speed to full complete revolution. Okay. So this is how we calculate the gear ratio, okay, in terms of any gears. You can see one more example here for compound gear train where motion is transferred between the shafts, okay, between two shafts where I am mounting 2 different gears on different shafts. So you can see for example here gear A is mounted on one of the shaft, gear B is mounted on the other shaft. Okay, gear B is mounted on another shaft nearby, or we call it as counter shaft, okay, parallel to each other. So I have to transmit motion from A to D, and A is the input torque or input shaft and D is the output shaft. Okay, D is mounted on output shaft. You can see here this is the output shaft. So this is input shaft. Input shaft is connected to gear A, output shaft is connected to gear D. So how do you transmit motion between these two? Okay. So from to gear A we are giving the driver speed. So that is using, okay, 2 more gears here, B and C. So these are the, okay, complementary gears which are helping in transmitting the speed from A to B, B to C and then C to D, so that the shaft speed of input shaft is being fed to output shaft. Okay. So how do you calculate the gear ratio here? Omega A is input shaft by omega D, angular velocity ratio, is calculated by, okay, take the first case here. So input shaft is A, okay, output shaft is B. It will be ratio of these two, omega A by omega B. Take the second case here. So input shaft is omega C, because from the, okay, gear B the torque is or the speed is obtained to gear C, and from gear C acts like a driver now, it will drive gear D. Okay. So ratio will become omega A by omega B, okay, multiplied by omega C by omega D. Input by output shaft, ratio of angular velocities to the input shaft by output shaft, that is a ratio of which gives you gear ratio, or inversely proportional. If you take teeth, okay, number of teeth of one gear is inversely proportional to its, okay, angular velocities. You can define in either ways. Okay, this is for compound gear train where there are 2 shafts involved with gear mounted on 2 different shafts. Okay. So next comes belt and chain drive. Okay, this is something similar to gears, but there will be a pair of rolling cylinders. You can see here there will be pair of rolling cylinders and the motion is transferred with the help of a belt, okay, with the help of belt. Unlike, okay, chain drives, you have seen the links in the chain which will usually mounted between 2 different, okay, pulleys which will transmit power from one pulley to another with the help of a chain. Similarly, there will be a belt here which will have friction being induced on 2 different rolling cylinders of different sizes which will transmit the motion. We usually come across in floor mills or in case of gearless transmission the belt type of mechanism. So just have a glimpse here. So you can see 2 different rollers here, rollers or rolling cylinders. Okay, this is the belt, and the upper part is called as tightening part, because whenever the belt is usually, okay, having a rotational motion between these 2 cylinders, so on the upper half of the cycle the belt is usually tightened, the friction is too high, and the lower half of the cycle whenever the belt takes a clockwise motion like this, so the lower part of the cycle is slacking motion because it will reduce the speed. At the upper part there will be, since it is a frictional part, friction is too high, so this portion is called as tighten, and T represents a tension of the belt between, because it is rigidly very strongly firmed between these two pair of rolling cylinders. So that will give us the power being calculated by this way, difference between the torque into angular velocity. This is how we calculate power of a belt drive. Difference of T1 minus T2. What is the tight side tension difference negated between the slack side, so that I will get the friction coming to picture, multiplied by angular velocity, that will give me the power yielded by the belt drive. That is how I select the belt drive. There are two different types you can see here, reversed belt and open belt. Reverse belt will change the direction of rotation of the belt, and similar to the open belt also will take the assistance of two more extra pair of rolling cylinders, which can efficiently change the direction of the rotation of the belt drive. The same purpose is obtained by using two different types of belts here. So types of belts. So types of belts are nothing but, so we don't have the profile of the belt in a uniform way. It may be a flat belt which is having a rectangular cross section. That needs a crowned type of rolling cylinder, because on the either side the flat is having a limitation of getting slided and coming out of the rolling cylinders. That is the usual case. For that limitation, the cylinders should be crowned at the ends, and on either end of the cylinder it should be raised with a protrusion, so that the flat belt will not get slided away during the motion of or transfer of motion between the two cylinders. It shouldn't slide away. So it shouldn't easily give up the tension. So that purpose, flat type of belts are used in crowned type of wheels. So second one is round type of belt which is used. So round type of belt usually needs a groove type of pulley, where there is a key slot being generated on the pulley, so that firmly the round type of belt will fix in that groove, and it will continuously tighten and slacking, so that it transfers the tension between these two grooved pulleys. Similar case is the V belt. V belt is also needs a grooved pulley, so that the V profile usually enters in the groove, and the friction will help in complete transfer of rotation between the two pair of rolling cylinders. And last one is timing belt. So timing belt is a similar case of V belt, but it is having a more efficiency than V belt. That is what we use in gearless type of transmission. So chain is also similar mechanism compared to the belt drive. We have seen them in bicycles and other type of vehicles, in two-wheelers or automobiles, where it helps in transmitting motion from one pulley or one roller to another roller more efficiently with the help of metal or alloys the chains are made up of. Last topic for the day is aspects of motor selection. So how do you select a motor now? Because we are dealing with mechatronics subject, where I am using all these mechanisms in selecting a motor. So motor is selected based on two criteria. One is moment of inertia, and the second one is torque. Moment of inertia already you are familiar. Since rotation motion is involved, so we have two things coming to picture here. One is motor and one more is load. Moment of inertia plays a vital role between these two type of devices, because motor has its own inertia, and load what is to be taken by the motor, that also induces inertia. These two inertia should be usually overcome. So because of rotation, moment comes into picture. So that moment of inertia Im of the motor and moment of inertia of the load IL, the summation of these two multiplied by alpha into omega. Alpha is angular acceleration, and omega obviously it is angular velocity. So these two, all these clubbed together will give what is should be the power of motor, how to select the power of the motor, or how it should be calculated, so that moment of inertia can be easily balanced or overcome. Second one is torque of the motor. This plays a vital role here, because I have already told you motor should function with a highest speed, as well as it should be reduced speed also, and it should instantaneously stop or intermittent. It should work between no load and maximum load condition. So varied type of extremities are there for the motor to perform. So you can understand that with the help of a graph here, torque versus speed. If I plot the graph, okay, take example of maximum speed where there is no load here. You can see maximum no load operating speed will give you very less torque. Obviously torque is very low, nearer to zero or very less, but motor speed is too high because there is no load on the motor. So second condition is torque is maximum operating torque, but speed is too low. That is the second important observation. So if torque is high, speed is low. If speed is too pace or larger, the torque is usually lower torque. So next comes the region here. Important region are continuous operating region and intermittent operating region. In continuous operating region, you can see the first operating region where you have to balance between torque and speed. Okay, obtain a balance between torque and speed, and in intermittent region also you have to obtain the balance between torque and speed. So an engineer should be having a knowledge of how to select a motor depending upon the torque and speed. Otherwise we will be a failure for using that motor what we select. So higher power should be preferred by having a proper knowledge of understanding of torque and moment of inertia. So this is the conclusion of mechanical actuation systems. So far we have discussed the concepts of mechanisms and motor selection. Next thing will be the electrical actuation system in the continued sessions. Thank you.